It's sort of like doing marriage counseling in front of on the TV set. It doesn't always work that well when you've got an audience there listening to it. So obviously a lot of work needs to be done in the College of Education to mend fences and to make certain that they get back on track and they get back on track in a productive way. Obviously some of the initial allegations that were out there weren't true. I think there's a responsibility to make certain that if you're going to print something, you're printing it as true. And in the case of the destruction of documents, there were no destruction of documents. So,
do you think that this ongoing, that if these certain things continue to go on as far as the discussion on transparency, that could hinder the UI image at all?
I have no idea. You know, it obviously, each incident is separate unto itself. I think we try to explain carefully the context of each incident and what we can talk about and what we can't talk about and why we can talk about it and why we can't. So the hope would be you would be good listeners and you would ask good questions and we would do our best to answer the questions within the confines of the laws that we have to live.
And then also, how long would you be willing to go kind of at will, per se, with the renewed contract?
Well, with 5 years of a deferred compensation package in place, I'm feeling pretty good about 5.
Let's move on. We got people over here, Peter. All right.
Yeah.
Given the laws that are the way they are, and you say the legislation should take a look at, will the public ever get a full accounting of the Peter Gray situation and who knew what when and what exactly he did and whether it should have gone in a different path?
You know, you all have seen the EOD report.
Not the full. It didn't come from.
Well, you've seen pretty much what there is to see. So I'm not sure what else there would be to show. Yeah, you know, are there additional documents? Is there a report that EOD keeps and keeps in a personnel file? Yes, but you've pretty much seen what there is to see.
We have not seen presentation for it.
Yeah, and that's part of his personnel file. And again, I'm not sure what you expect from the presentation.
Well, I don't know why it's being withheld.
Well, again, being part of the personnel file, we take the legal advice that's given to us, and as part of the personnel file, we wouldn't share it.
Are there any specific changes you think the legislature should make in this area that would make your job a lot easier in these cases?
You know, I think it really needs to be up to them to look at these things and make decisions, because this would affect thousands and thousands of employees and thousands of individuals that currently have an expectation of privacy and feel that privacy is protected by the First Amendment. So it really does need to be something that is publicly discussed, and if there is to be a policy change, it has to come from that level.
So is that your message to the governor? Because the governor has been saying in recent days he feels there's a lack of transparency in Iowa without being real specific. Are you saying, well, maybe you guys should do something to do it?
Well, we'll work harder to make sure that the governor has the information that he needs.
You say that you're happy with the 5-year deferred compensation package that's in place. Is there any hope or expectation on your part, or was it discussed with the regents in August, or perhaps since August, that you would get back to a longer-term contract?
No.
Beyond being an benevolent?
No, it didn't bring it up.
So it was not something where they said, if you make these improvements, then there would be a longer-term contract in place again?
No, it wasn't something that I ever asked for.
And you don't feel like you need to or want to ask for it?
You're making me feel like I need to. No.
Kim?
Can you just tell us anything further about where the university is in the investigation with the Gray situation?
Well, we have audit working on process and all kinds of sort of mechanical things in athletics, in this advisory support, and on the compliance side, just to make certain that Policies are in place, policies have been enacted, people have done the training they were supposed to do, to see where, if anywhere else, we might have a problem. So we need to wait for audit to finish its work before we have any more information that we'll share. And that will be shared with the board because the internal audit group reports to the board.
Have you ever spoken to Mr. Gray personally about this situation?
I have not, no.
Tara, any questions?
Yeah, many people have said that Chapter 22 of the Iowa Code, which is what Thomas told me is the law that precludes you from releasing personnel records, that law does allow the legal custodian of the records to release them if they choose. So are you saying that that portion of the code does not allow you to release personnel records?
It doesn't say quite that. And I believe there's a shall in there that really does restrict what can be released. And we, again, legal advice tells us that we would be putting the institution at risk. I am absolutely committed to not putting the institution at risk for litigation if I can help it. I don't think that's productive, nor do I want to spend money on unnecessary litigation. So I'm going to stick with our legal interpretation. Thank you.
Do you plan to formally address Governor Branstad's concerns about the lack of transparency at the university?
I think I'll leave that to the Board of Regents.
And are you working at all to regain a contract with the Board of Regents?
No, as I've said, that really hasn't been an issue.
Did you support Provost Butler's order to hand over the College of Education Working Iowa survey results and delete the emails related to the comments made on the survey?
You know, Provost Butler is someone I have a great deal of confidence in. I believe he did what was responsible and right in the College of Education, and they've got a lot of work to do down there.
Now, the deleting of the emails, that's really what caused the uproar and caused faculty to become so upset. So is that something that you instructed Provost Butler to do? Is that your
No.
decision? Okay. Do you think that reflects badly on the leadership at the university from the dean up to your office?
You know, again, when you're trying to deal with difficult personnel issues, you've got to make some decisions, and you've got to have an understanding of where the information is going to be held. And I think the provost, without asking the provost, I believe the provost was trying to make the best decision, not only for the College of Education, but for the dean as well.
Let's get started with the broadcasters in the back, an opportunity if they want to ask any questions.
You've got the issues at the College of Education, you have the Peter Gray thing. What kind of change does that put on the university's reputation?
You know, this is a big place, and there are lots of things happening all the time. These are not unusual situations by any stretch of the imagination. The fact that they get as much attention as they do here, I think that's you. That seems to be the news that you want to report, but it is not unusual in any large organization like a university to have these kinds of things happening routinely.
So are you saying that it's routine to have a bunch of faculty members resign from their, committee because they feel like they don't know what they feel like there's not a transparent method going on?
I've been at 3 institutions of higher education. I have seen at every one of these institutions from time to time, faculty get frustrated with something. And maybe it's resign a committee, maybe it's something else, but it's not that unusual. I think it is unusual. What turned out to be unusual is that some faculty wish to share it with the world. Usually when they have disagreements, they really like to try to work through them in an intellectual way, having discussions, full discussions, and so forth and so on.
Do you know if there was if they were kind of concerned with this, do you know of any faculty concern that was brought to your office or the provost office prior to this incident?
I knew the provost was working on this and was having good discussions with many people in in education. I knew the dean had written I thought, a very warm and open email inviting people to come and have a conversation with her about issues that they were concerned about.
So you mentioned that the unusual thing would be that people are sharing both in the Peter Gray situation and the education.
True.
Do you think that's maybe a sign of something within the environment of the university that needs to be addressed?
I do think people, and you can't, it's hard to know what drives individual people, but certainly frustration can often be a driver, a motivator. If someone feels that they're not getting the kind of attention on an issue that is of concern to them, from time to time things like this do happen.
So is there a level of frustration, I guess, that
This
you
time
would
of
feel?
year?
Yeah, I know, but you
Yeah.
said, I mean,
Yeah.
it is something that doesn't add up when there's usual frustration, there's usual things that happen at every college. For some reason, this has happened a couple of times now, so
Yeah.
do these people feel that there's no other recourse and why would they feel that way?
Yeah, I can't, not being a psychologist, not being able to get in their heads, I can't tell you what's driving it, but I will say this, again, having been an administrator at 3 different universities, we administrators often know that just before, especially just before the holidays, people tend to reach the ends of their ropes, the level of frustration. This past Sunday, for example, ICON went down for a couple of hours, and I got a few angry emails from students, not surprisingly, because they were getting ready to study for finals, and they wanted ICON to be up. Well, it got back up, but that frustration comes out and shows in interesting ways sometimes when we hit certain cycles in the year.
Make sure we get the folks in the back another opportunity.
I was just going to say, we touched on this a couple times, obviously,
Sure.
but the governor says he's concerned. Does that concern you? The governor, we're standing in this room right now, this is President Mason. I'm concerned.
Yeah.
What is your response to the governor?
I would say, Governor, let's sit down after this, have a cup of coffee, and let me find out what your concerns are so I can clarify for you what is going on. There's no reason for you not to have as much information as you feel you need.
Have you done that? Do you look to do that?
I look forward to doing it. I work through the Board of Regents.
So you haven't reached out to the governor to say, talk about some of these things?
Not yet.
Do you plan to?
Again, I'll work through the board on that. I generally don't go directly to the governor myself. I work through my board.
Anybody else back around the table?
I mentioned the board, President Lang last week, he asked for comments about, he said it's become clear that you were to fully implement the reforms of the board order in 2020, specifically as it relates to sexual harassment training. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think we need to wait for the audit to know what happened and didn't happen. So I'm going to hold judgment on that until I actually have some information that will tell me one way or the other. So we'll see. Yeah. It's a good question. It's part of the reason why I put the audit in place, is because I wanted to know the answer to that question too.
Have you been having additional contact with perhaps President Lang and members of the board, just given the issues and some of the statements that President Lang made? Are you touching base with them more, or are they meeting with them regularly?
I have been calling them regularly to just keep them updated. Now we're in a period where the auditors are doing their work, so not much for a while longer until we have some information from the auditors.
I know that President Lang has also talked about how he wished there was a quicker turnaround in kind of the audit results.
Right,
and
right.
That, so could you specifically, maybe mention some things that you already know that should a situation that would call for the region to know about, such as Gray or anything else, what you would do to kind of change and make that faster?
Oh, again, without the information from the audit, it's hard to say at this point. We're going to wait until we have all the information. I mean, we've made some changes already.
Like,
Well, Gary Barta has split apart academic advising and compliance. They're two separate units now. They're co-reporting on one hand to the provost's office in athletics and on the other hand to the general counsel's office in athletics. So that was right away. he and I agreed on that right away. So we've made the immediate changes. Now what we really need to know is what, if anything else, do we need to do to ensure that we don't have a lapse again?
I have one more question, but it's completely off topic, so I'm just gonna wait till everybody else is done.
Anyone else want to jump in? Tara?
Two faculty members in the College of Education are claiming that Provost Butler threatened to take away their legal protection afforded under the university if they did not hand over that data from the surveys and deleted emails. Do you support that?
Well, I don't know that he said that, for starters. I think you'd have to talk to him and get his take on that. I have no idea what that's about. Diane?
I'm asking on behalf of our sports reporters about is conference expansion done for the Big Ten?
Oh, the big question. What Jim Delaney would say, and I would agree with him, is we're pretty happy with where we are, and we've got some real work to do now to make sure that we integrate our new members into the conference. I don't anticipate anything happening, but as Jim always likes to say, we're watching what's happening. We'll go with that. Okay? She's doing sports today, too.
President Wilson,
Yeah.
how do you feel about the statement that was released today by the student, faculty, and staff leaders that supported you?
They're in the back of the room. There's some of them in the back of the room. I was thrilled and pleased and not surprised. I enjoy an extraordinary working relationship with the shared governance groups on our campus, the students, the faculty, and the staff. It is a joy to get to work with these people on a daily basis, and it brought tears to my eyes to see their very, very kind words.
Any final questions?
Yeah, I know that there are some people too that just kind of going back to the recent kind of events that have accumulated. You know, some people are angry with the general public and, you know, call for your resignation. You know, what would you kind of be your response to that?
I think until you've sat in my shoes for a few hours, you might want to be a little perhaps calmer about your judgments on things. And I always tell people, and you won't like this, but don't believe everything you read in the newspaper. It isn't always quite what some of us know, and we know that oftentimes things that happen are very nuanced. Has this been useful?
Thanks for coming. We do appreciate it.
Well, I laugh sometimes when I get requests from the media because I'm generally running here, running there, and trying to do too many things. So to be able to bring you all together and do this today, I very much appreciate that. Hope that stories that you're writing, you've got the information you need, and Jen's, call Jen. I'm sure he'd love to.
Can you tell me anything else Jen's working on?
Yeah. As long as we're talking about that.
Jen, do you want to share with the group what you're working on?
Well, I always try to scoop Ryan, but it doesn't
Yeah.
always work out.
Okay.
Thank you, President.
You're welcome.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.